my plan for this afternoon really is to introduce some ideas to you about job searching that might not be typical things that you would think of, especially in the time period, before the last 2 to 3 weeks, when the job market changed dramatically. And so I want to present those to you, and I also want to give you some sort of practical things and resources that we have available for you through the UNT Career Center. There are more than 50 virtual events right now listed in Handshake. So if you go to the events section, there are, like I said, a lot of different opportunities there. There are a lot of jobs still out there. There are recorded workshops and events that the Career Center has done and has put up, and here's the link for that, as well as a resource page that we've put together for you guys. And then if you're a business major, and each college, by the way, if you're not in the College of Business, each college has its own page on our main Career Center website. So you can go there for specific information about that is related to your major and services that are related to your major. But as I said, we've got some headwinds now blowing, and these are just things, for the most part, we can't control. We can't control what's going on with the virus. We can't control what's going on in terms of what we're being told to stay at home or whatever, and we can't control whether or not an employer is able to hire right now or not. So I think it's a good thing to think about what we can control. This actually comes from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And basically what he's doing is he's showing the spheres of control. And it's what we can control is relatively small. The middle circle, though, is there are things that we can influence. And as you go through this process of career planning and job searching, you have to think about the things that you can control, and you have to think about things that you can influence. And the other thing that Covey talks about a lot is that it is possible to expand especially this middle ring. There are ways, and we'll talk about some things that you can do to expand your ability to influence some factors that might be related to your ability to go out and search for a job, but also to be able to get to the job or the internship. All right. So one of the things that I want to talk about is an idea called planned happenstance, and it's a quick poll that I want you to do. When you hear the word planned happenstance, what do you think of? It's just a term for luck, turning random meetings into opportunities, or it's a detailed scheme. Here was the results. It is number 2, turning random meetings into opportunities. And this is a really, really important concept right now in the time period that we're in. Some of you may have heard this: luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that's really what happens in planned happenstance, right? Chance events that turn into actual opportunities. It's very important now, as you're trying to expand the things that you can influence, that you look for opportunities that are out there where maybe you hadn't looked for them before. So when you're talking to somebody who works for a company or an organization that you might not have ordinarily been interested in, are you willing to go and be curious about that to see whether or not it might be more interesting than you would have thought it would have been, right? So the 4 pieces of the planned happenstance are being curious. Secondly of all, are being persistent, you know, to deal with obstacles, to be flexible. We're in a time period right now where flexibility is very important. And finally, to be optimistic, right? Because if you're not optimistic, and you're not looking for opportunities to happen or for things to present themselves, or believing that that could happen, then you probably won't recognize them when they do. Preparation really is talking about your goals, but it also means that you have to think about what it is that you want to offer to other people in terms of the work that you can do for them. What are the skill sets that you have, right? And thinking about what they need. This is absolutely critical, thinking about what they need, because what you should be doing is crafting messages that are around closing the gap between the skill sets that you have and the things that employers or people that could hire you might need. You want to practice, and especially your communication, right? One of the, some of you may have heard me talk about this before, and as I'm talking to classes and things like that, one of the things I talk about is the #1 reason that employers say they don't hire somebody after they interview them for a job is that they do a poor job of communicating their skills. And what they mean by that is that they can't really give examples to back their skills up that they claim that they have. So you have to be able to sort of prove that you can do some of the things that you say you are. So you want to be open, you want to be proactive. You don't dismiss something because it doesn't meet your expectations, because it may be possible for you to find something in your expectations. You want to be curious, and you want to network. I'll say a little bit more about the networking and the action planning in just a minute. But this is kind of just in a nutshell a way to approach things at a time period when you never know when an opportunity might pop up. The other thing that I think that is very important for you to bear in mind is that for many years now, there has been this recognition that there is a hidden job market, okay? And that may mystify some people, because they think, oh, you know, we have Indeed, we have Handshake, we have LinkedIn, we have all of these resources, you know, so every single job that's out there must be out there, okay? But if you notice on this, the known job market is talking about things that already exist, okay? But in the hidden job market, the job actually may not even exist right now. So once again, going back to meeting people and looking for opportunities, it may be that somebody meets you, they see the skill sets that you have, and they want to make an opportunity for you because they'd rather have you come work for them than come work for than go work for the competition, right? Another thing is that the company identifies a need. They need to solve a problem. Companies have lots of problems right now, right? And they're just now probably, you know, and in the next maybe even 3 weeks to a month, are getting their feet underneath them to figure out what those actual problems are and how they can approach those. All of this has happened so fast that, you know, we're all off balance a little bit and trying to figure out what's our next step, okay? And again, related to that is the success equals solving problems. So if you can show your ability to solve problems, then that makes that much more of a difference. All right. The hidden job market is about doing your homework, about researching. It's about preparation. I have the little frowny face there next to research, because when I talk to students a lot about, and I use the research term, you guys don't tend to like to do research. But the truth of the matter is that when you go into any situation, a job application, career planning, networking, anything that has to do with moving yourself forward to be successful, if you're not presenting yourself as somebody who's knowledgeable, if you're applying for a job with somebody and you know nothing about their organization, I mean, they're going to assume if you're applying for a job, you're interested in them. But then when they ask you, what do you know about us, and you're not able to communicate that, then they think, well, you're not really that interested. So doing your research, doing your homework is actually important. I read a really good quote the other day. They said, interested is interesting. So if you show interest in what somebody's doing, if you show interest in someone's organization that they're part of, that makes you interesting to them. Okay. It's also a process, because it's not like you're just, especially in the hidden job market, it's not like you're always just going to Handshake or to LinkedIn to find the job openings. So it's talking to people, it's finding out where the opportunities are, it's figuring out if there's a problem that needs to be solved, and who do you need to talk to make a presentation, basically, that you may have some skill sets to do that. Okay. I'm going to say a little bit more about messaging in a minute, but again, this is a proactive process. Okay. We have been in an almost, passive job market for most of you who, if this is your first challenging job market, then it was kind of easy to sit back and just kind of let things come to you. But now you've got to go out there and be willing to make the first move. Okay? So think about how you can use the idea of the hidden job market to move forward, move your search forward. All right. Messaging is really important. Okay. And messaging is really, and some of you have heard me talk about personal branding before, but it's directly related to that. And that's the totality of what you're presenting to a consumer or an audience about yourself, right? And so it's everything about yourself. It's what you say verbally, but it's also nonverbal. Now, one of the things that a lot of you are going to experience is you're going to have virtual interviews. They're going to be online. You treat that the same way you treat an in-person interview. And that means that, at least on the camera, you got to make sure that you look professional. At least on the camera, you got to make sure that you have good, positive body language. Okay. And this is, in person and in virtual person, if you will. Okay. And it's also in your online presence. So it is in your LinkedIn profile. It is in your Handshake profile. It's also in the things that you might not think that employers might not look at, like your Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But you shouldn't be surprised if you find out that at least some of them do, because one of the things they're doing is that they're looking at you, and there's the whole of your personal brand. They're asking the question, how will this person represent our organization? Okay, because once they make that commitment to you, then you're representing them. All right. So now, I couldn't figure out an exact way to get you to be able to do this, but I do want you to think about this. And if you have the ability to just take a minute or so to write out your elevator speech or your introduction, I think it's this is, again, if you hear what me talk at all, I talk a lot about this, and it's not, it's that critical. I talk about it a lot because it's so critical. When you introduce yourself, that immediately makes a first impression on someone, and they're immediately deciding whether or not are you somebody that they want to help or not. And so that's why it's important to sound polished. That's why it's important to know what you're going to say. I sort of think that at its most basic level, an introduction is in sort of three parts. Hi, my name is, I'm a junior at UNT studying whatever. I have a background and strong skill sets in customer service and in problem solving. And I'm hoping to find an internship in marketing analytics. So those are the three parts. And that's the easiest way to put it together, I think, to start off with. And then when you get as you get more practiced and polished at it, you'll find yourself ad-libbing a little bit, and also thinking about, oh, I could include this, or I could include that, and it would sound good, or it would be a good thing to communicate. All right. And as you're messaging, it is important to think about who your audience is. If it's somebody who you know has a job, that's one thing. If it's a networking contact who you may be needing them to provide you some feedback, or just asking for their advice or whatever, the message that you might give might be a little bit different. So you want to tailor it for the audience. And if you're looking for jobs in several different places or several different kinds of jobs, you would tailor the message just a little bit different based on the job or internship itself. You know, what's the message about? It's mostly about skills and experiences. So once again, one of the things that you want to do is be able to evaluate what your skills and your experiences are, and then figure out what's a good way to communicate those. One trick you can use is you could actually script this out. And I'm not suggesting that you read directly off of a script. What I am saying is that when we write things down, it makes it, what it does is it forces us to organize our thoughts, and then to also evaluate in a more objective way of, does this communicate what we think it communicates? The other thing is that you want to, it's a continuous feedback loop too. You want to do your own evaluation of your messaging. You also want to ask other people for their feedback, because you may think that you're communicating things clearly, but when you're talking to somebody, they may not realize, or they may misunderstand what it is that you're trying to communicate. So getting that level of polish to your message over a period of time, it's not immediate. This is something that we all develop over a period of time. If you talk to anybody that's in sales, they will tell you that their first sales presentation that they ever gave, they'll probably tell you it was not real good compared to what they're doing now, because you learn as you go, and you improve as you go, and you learn what works as opposed to what doesn't work. The other thing that I want you to bear in mind now is that you are dealing with, and we are dealing with, artificial intelligence in the job search process, okay? And what that means is that the employers are using search tools, automated search tools, to find candidates more and more. Even in something like LinkedIn, they've got some tools that they can use to help find candidates through that system, right? And so how do you use that to your advantage as opposed to it working against you? Well, a lot of it has to do with the language that you use in your online presence, in your resume, and even to some extent in your verbal communication, especially if it's going to be online, right? Because they may actually use some tool to parse out some of what you're saying. There are tools out there now that can do that with video. So Back to research. You need to know what it is that the employers are looking for, and some of that is going to be embedded in the job descriptions. Some of that will be through conversations that you have through networking resources. Some of that will be through learning that you do as you go forward and understand what it is that is important. So before you ever get to any technical skills that they might be looking at, because sometimes students will say, oh, well, I don't have a lot of experience in this field. But then when I look at their resume, or if I look at a LinkedIn profile, I won't see the word customer service there anyplace. I won't see the word teamwork anyplace. I won't see the word communication. And when I'm thinking about problem solving, when I'm thinking about the top 4 or 5 things that employers are looking for, in their job descriptions, and as I'm talking to them, those words need to be reflected because that's what the search tools are looking for. The other thing that you should be prepared for is that you may apply for a job and you might get a text message, and the text message might be coming from a chat bot. So it's really important once you start applying for jobs or internships that you pay attention to who's texting you, okay? Because the chat bots are not that smart. And so, for instance, if you're not paying attention and you just send back a bunch of emojis because you emoji back and forth with your friends and buds on in your texting, then the chat bot won't understand it, and so that could end up working against you. So AI, the one thing that's good about AI is that it won't look at your picture. It doesn't care what your name is. It only cares about content, okay? And so that's the positive piece of it. And so, like I said, you want to use it to your advantage if at all possible. And the way to do that is to embed the language. All right. All right. So now, as we're going through this time period, we have to think about where are some places that are needing problem solvers, are facing some demands on them, and are just, they need to hire people. And so this was came from one webinar that I was looking at, and they were showing some things about who are companies, who are industries of focus, right? So you would expect right now that healthcare would be hiring up, social media, the hand sanitizer producers. You get the idea. You want to think outside the box. Peloton, I thought that was interesting because Peloton is all online. People subscribe to them. They send them pay them a lot of money. They send them a bike, but all of that content and all of the whole infrastructure, the technical infrastructure, is being run that online. And so there's a lot of things that are going on out there. Some other things you might think about, all of the big Amazon, all of the companies that have a big distribution network, they've got things going on. So there are and are going to be opportunities. And I also think that as the economy gets back on its feet again, you will see some other things begin to evolve. So pay attention to what's going on as far as what's going on in the economy. Some good resources to take a look at would be things like the Dallas Business Journal, the Dallas Morning News, the Wall Street Journal, because on a daily basis, they're talking about different things that are going on with different companies, for better or worse, right? And so it's helpful to know these things, because you'll read the name of a company and you go, oh, I wonder if they're hiring somebody for my field right now. Do they have any job openings? And you can go look. One other thing that I think is going to emerge a little bit stronger than we've seen it even before in the past are flex jobs, or jobs that are gig, the sort of gig economy that people talk about, and I'll show you some resources for that in a moment. But I think that there will be some of us that'll be working in sort of these more flexible sort of gig kind of opportunities going forward. All right. Let me talk about networking for just a minute, because it's now, and anytime we get into a challenging job market, networking, meeting people gets even more important than it's ever been. If you get an internal referral within a company, it's going to increase your chances of getting to an interview by 6 times. All right. And so once again, we're back to doing some research. Who should you connect with, right? Another thing is getting into a community mindset. And we're seeing a lot of this happen nationally now with college students. We're seeing a lot of college students just get together kind of informally and forming their kind of own support groups. A job search group makes sense, because one of the things that you do in a group like that is you develop a plan, and people share their different plans with each other. And then the group becomes an accountability tool as well, because people are asking you, you said you were going to talk to 5 networking people last week. Did you talk to 5? And then it just holds us accountable. Back to the communicating skill sets, communicating what you need from contacts and how they can help you. And the one thing I would say about that is be a little bit careful. You don't want to ask a networking contact who's given up their time and kind of their personal effort or whatever. You're not going to be in a situation where you can ask them too much, right? Share accomplishments, and especially as they're related to the work. The contact might need to be done, or something that's related to the industry, organization, occupation you're interested. Okay. So these are some of the things that you should be thinking about in your networking. One of the best networking resources out there that I know of is LinkedIn. Some of you may know that there is a UNT school page in LinkedIn. There are 200,000 alumni there. They're working for companies you're interested in. They're working in occupations you're interested in. They're working in industries of interest. And I would say the one thing that you want to do whenever you're introducing yourself to a networking contact at first is you don't want to jump right in and say, "Hi, I'm interested in your company, and do you have any jobs?" They don't know you, even if they know that. Or do you have any opportunities, from the hidden job market kind of thing. That's not where you want to start. Where you want to start is by asking for advice. An open-ended question, a question they can't answer yes or no to, is going to be the key to starting that conversation. So these are things that are really important, but reaching out to people and talking to people in your industry, in your organization, in your occupation are important. We've got a mentoring platform that we are in the process of bringing online. It's called Mean Green Mentors. You guys may very well be hearing about it soon. It's a way for you to, and it actually, you fill out a profile there, and it then actually makes recommendations to you about mentors that are already in the system who might be good mentoring resources for you. Another thing that I want you to think about is the power of professional associations. And you'll say, well, the professional associations aren't having meetings right now. No, that's not true. They are having meetings. They're just meeting online. So say you're interested in information systems, and you go out and you look for the Dallas-Fort Worth Association of Information Systems, AIS, and you ask, would it be possible for me to participate in this online meeting or something like that? Most of the time they're going to say yes. I would not recommend, if you're a college student, that you just join a professional association outside of the university record, the ones that we have in the College of Business or whatever. I'm talking about the professional chapters, because they're kind of costly. But I think if you ask for permission to participate in any of those meetings, they will probably say yes, because it's a way for them to give back. It's also a way for them to understand that, or a way for them to cultivate new members as well. So those are some of the things that ideas I have on networking. All right. And then there are some job searching resources that I wanted to share with you. Obviously, Handshake is important and it's critical. If an employer is in Handshake, they're going to be sourcing candidates through Handshake. So when you go and you look at your profile, is your profile up to date? Is there something for the employers to look for? On LinkedIn, there's a hashtag on there right now called Now Hiring, and it will take you to a whole stream of potential recruiters that are hiring. It's not the only thing that's going on in there. There's some other things that are going on in there as well. You kind of have to be in there and monitor it and do some research on it, but it's another good resource. I also think from a job posting standpoint, LinkedIn is also pretty reliable, because a lot of the employers will have taken down jobs that are not available right now. Okay, so the ones you see in there probably are, you could be pretty confident that they're actually recruiting for that. I mentioned the flex jobs earlier. Here's a list of several organizations that do some things. So first of all, this Parker Dewey is something we just learned about this week. Parker Dewey does micro internships, where you get to work, where they give you a project, and you have to be basically hired for it because they pay you for it. So it's selective. You have to, once again, be prepared. You have to have a good resume. You have to be able to make the case for yourself about why you should be selected to do this project. The projects last anywhere from 8 hours to 40 hours, and the average pay is about $400. But it's great if you can get one of those. It goes on your resume. You can do a lot with it, right? And then here are some of the other flex jobs or gig kind of jobs. These are not full-time permanent jobs, but they're going to be project-related jobs that employers have put out there to get work done that they need to get done. Should you be using ZipRecruiter? I think you have to pay for ZipRecruiter, so I'm not a big fan of students having to pay for resources. I think that if you should use as many resources that are out there as you can. If you don't have to pay for it and you want to try it out, I say go for it. But I think there's a lot of other resources out there that are probably as good, that you wouldn't have to pay for. The LinkedIn job application brought you there. Okay, well, if the LinkedIn job application brought you there, what that means is that the employer is using ZipRecruiter as their application system. And obviously, if it wants you to apply through that system, you would go ahead and do that. Should students keep searching for jobs in this situation? Emphatically, yes. Emphatically, yes. You will miss opportunities. There are a lot of people, and I've been through this every time we've had a challenging job market, where people will just go sit on the sidelines and not continue the process. And that, I think, is a big mistake. I think that you want to continue to do what you've been doing, but even work and do some of the things that we've talked about and begin to include those in the process. A few weeks ago, less than a month ago, you might not have needed a plan, but now you need a plan. Would be helpful. A plan is helpful because it helps you to see what kind of progress you're making. If you feel like you're making progress, you feel positive. If you feel positive, you'll be more successful. How about learning new skills? LinkedIn Learning. Great question. Yes. I think that, and I think you want to be judicious about that, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the skills that you don't have, but you might need. But by the same token, picking up on one or two new skills through LinkedIn Learning or through other resources that are out there, I think can be a real good thing. I just don't want it to take, we're getting, we're moving towards the end of the school year now, and I want to make sure that you guys finish strong on your schoolwork, right? And so I don't want it to distract you completely from being able, but if you have the time to do it, by all means. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Any website that is good for searching recent jobs in the DFW or Texas area. You can work in, you could look at Work in Texas. I think it's workintexas.gov is a Texas kind of thing, but I think LinkedIn is actually is actually pretty good. If you go in there and you look and you do a job search on the Metroplex, you're going to see that there are jobs out there. And again, one of the reasons why you don't want to stop the whole job search process right now is there are opportunities out there, and you don't want to miss those. I'll be graduating, and I've been told by a few employers that has made me graduating with an MBA, and it's making them ineligible because I would have to be paid too much, but at the same time, I've been told I don't have enough experience. How do I reconcile that contradiction? That's a challenge. And I would say there's a couple of things. I think first of all, continuing to communicate with your network. This is where networking resources and mentors can make a big difference for you, because they can advocate for you. Yes, they may not see the experience or skill sets that you have, but when you have somebody else recommending you, that makes a big difference in an employer's ability to look and looking at you and saying, oh, this is a person worth taking a chance on. This is a person who I've got somebody vouching for them, saying they've got a lot of capabilities. There's a lot of upside to this person. So that's kind of how you do with that. In your elevator speech, do you recommend listing technical skills? I think you don't want to give a long list of technical skills in an elevator speech. If you have one or two that are absolutely relevant to the work, yes, do that. I think that's helpful. Can you provide additional detail around how virtual career fairs are structured and what to expect? Yeah, great question. So what happens in a virtual career fair is just think of it like a regular career fair. Every employer is there, and they've got their own basically virtual table or virtual space, and you're going to go into that virtual space. In most cases, for the virtual career fair that we're doing, we're going to have it's going to be in Zoom, and what they're going to do is they're going to create a room in Zoom, a virtual room, and when you go in, you're going to be in the waiting room, okay, and then they're going to let you into the room, and pretty much they're going to do it one at a time. And I think in most cases, while the fair is live, it's going to be video, and so it'll be kind of a one-on-one video. So you should be prepared before you go into the room, know something about the company, know what your introduction is going to be, know what you're looking for, be prepared to answer some basic questions, right? So those are some good questions. What do I think about Indeed? I think Indeed is fine. I think it's not as reliable as LinkedIn. I don't think the employers do quite as good a job of making sure that they expire jobs when the job's no longer available. And that's the only my only sort of argument with it. It's also a great research tool because it does have a lot of jobs on it. And so you can get a pretty good idea of, you know, what the job requirements are in a certain area. Okay, with internships being required for certain majors and the job market being the way it is, what if a student can't find an opportunity to graduate on time or as planned? Okay, that's a great question. The faculty are going to work with you on that. Don't panic. The other thing is that they're going to tell you, unless it's the last minute, they're going to tell you to keep working on it, but you also want to know who the main upper level advisor is for your major and be communicating with that person about what's going on and what kind of progress you're making. And if push comes to shove, there are they can help you find an alternative to the internship. But really, they want you to get the experience, so that's important. Okay? Additionally, Coursera is a great website to complete certifications and courses. Yeah, so I think we have a student recommending Coursera. I think actually it says there's a fee, but I think the university is now subscribing to it, so I'm not sure if there's an actual fee associated with it or not, because the university has contracted with them. Are there any resources to help for resume building for graduate students? Well, I would strongly suggest that the Career Center would be a good resource to help you with resume building if you're talking about just creating the resume. If you're talking about resume building in terms of getting experience, again, you might want to reach out to our office because we can give you a lot more information about some resources that are out there. All right, so let me give you some final thoughts here that I think are really critical. The first thing is that you want to stay positive. Getting negative is not very constructive, and it really sort of undercuts what you're trying to accomplish. You want to have a plan. As I said, a month ago, maybe you didn't need so much of a plan, but now you need to. Prepare and research. I've talked about that a lot. Networking, okay? Keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities and look for ways to create opportunities for yourself, right? Some of that might be through gig economy. Some of that might be through getting more skills. Some of that would be through making suggestions potentially to networking contacts after you get to know them well, okay? And the last thing, and this is really critical, when you are networking or when you apply for a job, follow up. Taking it to that next level and letting the employer know, or asking the next question about, circling back to them and letting them know that you're still interested in those kinds of things. That's absolutely critical because it puts you in a small number of people who actually do that, and it brings you more to the forefront in terms of what the employer is thinking about. All right, I just want to remind you that the Career Center is open, okay? You can contact us directly. This is a list of there's 4 of us in the College of Business Career Center. If you're if you're a major outside of the College of Business, you can go to the website and find out who your advisor is, or you can make an appointment on Handshake. Or you can, and especially if you're a College of Business major, you can call that phone number and we'll pick up, and we'll be happy to get you set up for a time to meet with us. All right, with that being said, I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me. I know that it's a challenging time for everybody, and I just want you to know that we're here to support you, and just to keep doing what you're doing, and put some of these other ideas into play, and I know that you're going to be successful.